Tomo-chan screams from the top of her lungs the love she has for Junichiro. He looks at her and wonders why it took her so long to tell him. They look deeply into each other's eyes with a moment of silence. He then laughs, putting his arm around her neck, telling her he loves her too whilst fist pumping her. Tomo leaves her home where she is greeted by her neighbor Junichiro. They begin to walk to school together. She has flashbacks from the first time they met together in middle school, where he thought she was a boy and asked her why she was wearing a skirt. As they continue their walk down the street, he spanks her backside. She jumped in shock. She responds by giving him a jab to the ribs, causing him extreme pain. They finally reach school. Tomo is sitting with Masuzu in the classroom. She is really upset as she wants Junichiro to start treating her like a girl. Masuzu tells her that she deserves to be treated as a boy because she only plays games that boys play. She advises Tomo to work on her voice as it is too manly. Tomo and Junichiro are walking together in the corridor. She practices her voice to sound more feminine. He bursts with laughter, telling her she sounds like an old man. This angers her as she screams at him. It becomes heated between them. He grabs her by her shirt, which he definitely regretted, as she gives him a sweet uppercut, wobbling his jaw. As Tomo arrives home, her dad is standing in his karate uniform. He notices the mark on her face, which he begins to question her on. She tells him she got into a fight with Junichiro. He tells her that she best have won the fight. She expresses she is a girl and he taught Junichiro karate, therefore the fight was not fair. The next day, they are back walking to school together. The pair of them have bandages to their face. Junichiro apologizes for what happened. She blanks him, showing no interest to talk. He decides to tickle her. She squeezes her juice carton in anger, followed by another punch to his face. As they are waiting to cross the road, he apologizes to her again. She begins to blush and decided to stop ignoring him. They make up together with a fist pump, calling each other besties for life. Tomo and Masuzu are eating their lunch together on a bench. She asks Tomo why she is the only one she eats her lunch with, considering she spends most of the school day with Junichiro. She explains if she is to eat her lunch with a guy, everyone will think they're dating. Masuzu stands up and begins to walk away. Tomo chases after her, screaming, asking what she is planning to do. She confronts Junichiro, asking him to join them to eat lunch. He suspiciously asks her why and to be honest about it. Tomo watches on with her anxiety going through the roof. Her plan worked. As the three of them eat lunch together, he takes a look at Tomo's juicy fried chicken. He grabs her hand and puts the chicken in his mouth. His lips touch her chopsticks. She immediately begins to freak out, turning red-faced while staring at the chopsticks. As Junichiro gazes out the window, he is approached by Tanabe. He asks how long he has been playing contact sports with Tomo. He explains they have been playing since they were children, and that her strong points are her legs. Masuzu is in the classroom and overhears the whole conversation. Later that day, she reports back to Tomo about what she has heard. She explains she heard they have been playing hardcore contact sport. When Tomo replies they do karate together, Masuzu pulls her close, whispering into her ear, indicating they meant something different to karate. Tomo slides open the door in anger, her eyeballs shooting up to her brain. Junichiro looks at her confused. She runs at him and attacks him as Masuzu hides behind the door watching. As the rain falls heavy, Junichiro and Masuzu are standing under the shelter. Both have forgotten their umbrella. There is tension between each other. She continues to express how close all three of them were as children as her mind goes back in time. She tries to get under his skin, questioning what he would do if Tomo found a boyfriend and stopped spending time with him. It clearly worked as he pushes her into the rain. Tomo arrives, wondering what they both were doing outside. She explains both have forgotten their umbrellas. When Junichiro suggests for him and Tomo to walk home together, she freaks out, screaming in Masuzu's face, telling her they can share her umbrella together. Junichiro, gobsmacked, looked over. Tomo emphasizes she cannot walk with him as it will look they're a couple, even though she would love for that. Masuzu urges her to walk with him. She decided to take her advice as she shares her umbrella with him walking home. Rain drips onto her left shoulder. He informs her to come closer to keep dry. She stresses that she stinks after practice, therefore getting wet will do her good. He decides to sniff her like a sniffer dog, emphasizing she does not smell of body odor. She aggressively demands him to stop sniffing her. He closes his eyes, describing she smells amazing. Her face turns bright red like a tomato, as she runs away from him. Tanabe insists to walk Masuzu home as he will happily share his umbrella with her. She had another idea, to use the umbrella without him. He innocently accepts. She thanks him and begins to walk home, leaving him stranded with no umbrella. Tomo, out of breath, is caught up by Junichiro. She is soaking wet. He has a slight view of her melons. He begins to freak out. This time it is his turn to run away as the rain bounces off his head. At the karate club, Tomo is up against Misaki. She flattens him with a flying kick, putting him to bed early. When he eventually wakes up, he highlights how strong she is. She wishes she could be at the women's karate club but becomes embarrassed thinking about it as she remembers her last test match, which brought fear into all the women at the club. They both start stretching together. Tomo describes herself being a failure of a girl. Misaki strongly disagrees, expressing he feels she is a charming girl. She instantly becomes extremely happy, holding both hands to her face whilst blushing. Later that day, Mifune and Ogawa can be seen spying on Misaki behind a wall. The pair of them begin drooling over him. Suddenly, Tomo arrives and thanks him for earlier on at the karate club. The girls wonder who Tomo is. They find Tomo attractive, assuming he is a boy, but quickly Ogawa points out Tomo is wearing a skirt and has large melons. They freak out as they realize Tomo is a girl. Misuzu approaches Junichiro in the classroom. She tries to cause trouble, telling him Tomo has made a new guy friend. He pulls out her bauble and throws it across the classroom. At the classroom, Tomo looks in her bag and realizes she has forgotten her textbook. She asks Junichiro if he wants to share, which he agrees to. He makes it clear that he knows she has a new guy friend. When she explains it is Captain Misaki and shows him a photo, he sighs in relief, thinking Misaki is a girl. Tomo opens the lid on a can and begins to drink, but she is not alone. Mifune and Ogawa approach her and introduce themselves. They express they need to talk to her, and they should meet her after school. Tomo takes offense to this as she stares at both the girls, rejecting the invite. She gets up in both their faces and lets them know if they want to fight, she will happily accept. The girls become scared, engulfed with fear. Back at the classroom, one of the girls asks Mifune and Ogawa if they have a death wish, highlighting Tomo's abnormal strength and that she has never lost a fight in karate. The girl's fear worsens as Ogawa starts pulling Mifune by the arm in fear of dying. At the schoolyard, Tomo is in her fighting stance while Mifune and Ogawa are trembling in fear. They ask her to drop her hands. Tomo does the opposite and clenches her fists more. Mifune decides to tell her they have a crush on Miss Ake Senpai, and this was the reason they wanted to talk. Tomo, surprised by her words, drops her fists. The moods completely change. Tomo is so excited that another girl has finally asked her for female advice. The three girls share a special moment together. Tomo is in the corridor with Misuzu. She tells her the exciting news as she laughs full of happiness. Mifune and Ogawa watch on from a distance. Junichiro arrives. He puts his arm around Tomo and decides to walk with her to find something to eat. She gives him an elbow to the face, full of anger as she just wants him to treat her like a girl. On the bus, Junichiro pats the seat with his hand and offers Tomo to sit next to him. She takes up the offer, however she looks extremely uncomfortable. She eventually jumps out her seat and decides to stand up instead. She looks at him with disappointment as he continues to treat her like a guy. They continue their bus ride. An old baldy man gets a bit too close to Tomo. Her eyes light up. She clenches her fist as she is ready to defend herself. Junichiro looks over in shock. However, she puts on a fake smile as she does not want him to know what is potentially happening. Her acting skills did not work well. He rapidly moves her aside and grabs the old man by his shirt. He handles the situation, handing the old man to the authorities. This was a new experience for Tomo. He finally treated her like a normal girl. Just as she thought things were looking positive, her dreams were shattered again when he told her to wear pants for school. This angered Tomo so much that she punched him. Back at school, she discusses with Misuzu about the incident on the bus. Misuzu grabs her, worried about her terrible experience. Tomo reassured her she was fine and that Junichiro handled everything. Once she heard he solved the problem, her face dramatically changed. She sat quietly on the bench, holding her heart, taking deep breaths. Misuzu points out Junichiro is only looking out for her. Tomo instantly suggests he must care about her. When Misuzu tells her not to get her hopes up, her face changes drastically, as she screams at Misuzu with tears in her eyes, worrying that he does not care about her at all. Misuzu continues further, telling Tomo to remove her shorts as girls do not wear shorts under their skirts. Tomo backs up, shocked by her suggestion as she holds her hands between her legs. She strongly disagrees with the idea. In the corridor, Misuzu approaches Junichiro. He has a bandage on his face from Tomo's punch. She asks him about the fight. He walks away as he does not want to discuss. When she tells him Tomo is waiting downstairs for him, he quickly turns round, approaching Misuzu with extreme enjoyment, knowing Tomo is no longer mad at him. Tomo has a new look. She decided to take Misuzu's idea and remove her shorts. Junichiro notices. He holds his hands in his head, almost in disgust. She asks him to walk home together. He agrees, however begins to walk without waiting for her. During their walk home, she apologizes for hitting him so hard. He looks the complete opposite way. He is so disturbed that he ends up headbutting the lamppost. On the bus, there is no seating spaces available, so they stand up. Junichiro envisions other men staring at Tomo due to her short skirt. It is making him lose his mind. They continue walking. He is walking rapidly, leaving her behind. The wind blows her skirt up, as she holds on for dear life. He has no interest in stopping and waiting for her. She becomes frustrated with him, therefore decides to run after him. She grabs him by the arm. The wind blows up her skirt, giving Junichiro an unexpected view. It is too much for him to handle as he passes out on the floor. He finally recovered as the pair of them sit on the bench together. He apologizes for telling her what clothes she should wear. He suggests she should wear clothes that she is not embarrassed in, as it only makes him feel more uncomfortable. She is starstruck by his words. At basketball practice, Masuzu asked her how it went. She threw the ball in anger, telling her he's seen her underwear. Once she told her, he reacted by fainting. Masuzu creased up, laughing uncontrollably. Junichiro is sitting quietly in the classroom. As he gazes out the window, he is unwantedly approached by Masuzu. She tries to torment him over what happened with Tomo. He prepares his hands and flicks her right on her nose. He notices Tomo in the hallway. He takes a deep breath and approaches her, cheerfully putting his arm around her. She was infuriated, having warned him about sneaking up on her. Masuzu watches on from a distance. Her facial expressions assume she is up to something. Carol with the big melons arrived at school. As she entered the classroom, she instantly had a group of boys surrounding her. Tomo and Masuzu look ahead from the other side of the classroom. Tomo asks if she is the girliest of girls since the boys are surrounding her. She asks how it is even possible to get that way. Masuzu gives her advice, and tells her if she has any chance she needs to get rid of the dumbbells firstly. She continues to highlight that Carol's melons grab the boys' attention, as well as her defenseless personality. Tomo walks alone in the hallway. She cannot understand how being defenseless is better than being strong. She wonders if befriending Carol will help give her a chance with boys also. She looks up to see Captain Misaki next to Carol as she holds onto his arm. Tomo reacts rationally, jumping out of her skin. She asked how the pair knew each other. Carol unexpectedly told her that they are engaged. Tomo aggressively replied back, not believing them. When Carol told her they have been married 3 times already, it was too much for her to handle as she begins to freak out. Misaki was pleased that the girls knew each other. Tomo explained they are in the same class, however have hardly spoken. Tomo leans towards Carol so she can get a clear look at her face. She asks if she is easily forgettable. Carol explained she does not pay attention to the boys in her class. Tomo became enraged, telling her clearly that she is wearing a skirt. Carol surprisingly puts her finger on Tomo's cheek and begins to rub it when she finds out she is a girl. Carol sits on Masuzu's desk. She tells her she wants to talk with her. Masuzu starts the conversation, letting her know she doesn't really get along with girls like her. Carol wants to know what the fastest way will be to knock Tomo out. Masuzu indicates she knows exactly who asked about this. Carol awaits Junichiro in his locker. They take their conversation outside. Masuzu referred her to speak with Junichiro. He wants to test out her fighting skills. As he raises his hand to test her power, she completely misses, landing a punch to his face. He is baffled why she is picking fights with people. He tells her even a kitten could beat her up. He pops his head in the classroom and calls for Carol to come follow him. As she leaves the classroom, Tomo is seen gobsmacked. She loses her mind as she grabs Masuzu by her shoulders, shaking her. She screams, asking why they are acting like that. Masuzu smirks at her, as she tries to stir the pot, telling her she has never seen Junichiro stare at another girl before besides her. Tomo holds her hands and her head, devastated. They begin training together. Less than 10 seconds into running, she sits down, unable to run anymore. They take the training into the gym. She fails to do one sit-up. They finally find something she can do. She begins skipping. Her melons are bouncing out of control. He avoids looking, staring at the ceiling. Tomo bursts into the gym, only to find Junichiro with his arms around Carol. He tells her this is how you grab your enemy. She looks at Tomo and points, telling him she is her enemy. Tomo jumps in shock and begins to shake. She then grabs Junichiro by the shirt. Carol taps her on the shoulder to let her know she is not her enemy anymore, followed by casually walking out the gym. Both are confused as Tomo loosens her grip on his shirt. Masuzu takes a ride home with Carol in style, as they are driven in a limousine. They arrive at a cafe. They begin to eat cake together. Carol asks to be friends with her. Masuzu suggests she should ask Tomo to be her friend. She is reluctant due to the incident they had. The 3 girls are all in the yard. Carol has flashbacks from childhood, when she asked to be friends, but the girls refused. She did not let this stop her, as she asks again. Now they are older. Tomo was surprised by her question. She smiles and happily agrees. Carol portrays her as an angel. The 3 of them all become friends. Masuzu was not so convinced as she pushes Carol away from trying to hug her. Junichiro and Tomo are having a conversation together. He slipped up, telling her him and Masuzu dated for a while back in middle school. He realized what he has just did, covering his hand with his mouth. Her mouth drops by what she has just heard.